Well, thank you for joining me tonight on Hawkeye's House of Horrors. And I am Hawkeye. And tonight I'm not going to talk about anything that's a scary film. This is certainly a comedy. It's been a while since I've done a review. The last one I did was the original. This is the sequel, Airplane 2, the sequel. I'm going to do a review for that movie here tonight, and I thank you for watching. Um, and I forgot to show on the original film that I did there, Airplane, the DVD or, sorry, Blu-ray that I have of both of the films, Airplane and Airplane 2. It's called the Don't Call Me Shirley edition. Great. There's a commentary of the original, anyways, on here, I know for sure. But it's got both films and very good quality, great picture, great sound, excellent. Better than the old grainy VHS that I have of both of these films somewhere still in the house. But very good there. I think I got that off of Amazon. But that's the I own those films, both of these films. I bought it for this review for to review them. I haven't seen them in a very long time, and do a review for those films for you today. So, Airplane 2, the sequel. It was directed by Ken Finkelman, and it was written by Finkelman, as well as an uncredited Al Jean. This was his first writing project. He would go on to do a number of television comedies or television shows, such as Charles in Charge, Alf, and The Simpsons, as well as an uncredited Mike Rice. And he went on to work on those very same shows along with Al. I am imagining, were a writing team, and they went on to work on all those shows. They did a ton of stuff for The Simpsons, I believe. And they were very young at the time of this film. I think Al was 20, Mike was 22, pretty young to be able to get a script that you have written to the big screen. And this is the big screen. This was a high budgeted film, not exactly a low budget, shoestring budget film. This was a big time sequel that was put out. Um, Now, for Finkelman, this was his very first theatrical film for him. And I would say, in my opinion, this might be the one film he's most known for, or the biggest film that he did in his career, to me, anyways. He did write Grease too, and he would go on to write Who's That Girl that starred Madonna. I swear I haven't seen that film since the 80s. Um, yeah, it wasn't for me, that one. But this was released again through Paramount Pictures. And it was released on December the 10th, 1982. It had a budget of $15 million, or in today's money, that's 2025. From what I can figure, it would be something like $49.1 million was the budget. It did okay at the box office. It made back 27.2 million, or 86.2 million today. But as you can see, it didn't uh, double what was put in for the budget. So yeah, it made its money back and then some, but it wasn't anywhere near as big as I thought it was going to be. Interestingly, Paramount also made Grease too. After the first one was so huge, Finkelman wrote the script to that one, Grease 2. And kind of like this one, it made $15 million on an $11 million budget. So, yep, it made its money back, but nope, it wasn't anywhere near as big as they were hoping. That's for sure. But Finkelman was brought in to write and direct Airplane 2. Unfortunately for Ken, both of those films never really hit it big at the box office. Originally, um, It was the original film was done by the Zucker brothers. That's um, Jerry Zucker and David Zucker and Jim Abrahams. They were originally going to be brought back to do the sequel, but they decided not to do it. I think they figured all those airplane jokes or what they truly succeeded in the original and felt like I think like a sequel wouldn't come up anywhere near close to the level of the original. Um, so they decided to work on a TV show called Police Squad. Uh, Now I haven't seen that show in years. I swear there was only like 6 to 8 episodes in total made. I think it was a bomb when it was released on TV, but later it went on to become Naked Gun. So therefore, Leslie Nielsen was in the show, playing Lieutenant Frank Drebin. Um, I think he was lieutenant in the show. As I said, it's been a very long time since I've seen it. So that's what they went on to do. Along with Leslie Nielsen, they went on to make this show. In fact, Leslie Nielsen was offered the role that he had in the original film, but no, he's going to work on this show with the Zucker brothers and Abrahams and do this show instead. Just to let you know, that role went on to John Vernon. He then came in to the sequel to do the role of the Doctor. So, uh, to me, it's funny Leslie Nielsen's Canadian, turned down the role, so they brought in another Canadian, John Vernon, to do the role, and both have wonderful, spectacular voices. Great. But John Vernon was brought in to do that role. And in addition, Robert Stack, who was, fantastic in the original, he was asked to return as well, but he declined due to him feeling it was really just a retread of the original film and, would rather do some other projects, I suppose. So, returning for Airplane 2, we have Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, Peter Graves, and Lloyd Bridges. So those four major actors of the original film are returning for the sequel. So, and then along with some other minor characters as well. There are a few of them as well that return for the sequel. No doubt they are playing the same characters. You should have no doubt that they are. Um, Graves as Captain Over. Uh, he's still pervy. And I must say, I did love the scene where he loses it because they've run out of coffee. Meanwhile, the ship they're on is going on course to hit the surface of the sun, but he loses it because we've run out of coffee. I thought that was very funny. But anyways, enough of that. I'm going to get to the story of this film here, Airplane Ticket. So the film is set in Houston to begin with. And with this new space shuttle called the XR 2300, and it's going to the moon. Ted Stryker, he's had another mental breakdown after he was, in fact, the test pilot for this XR 2300, this new space shuttle. The shuttle crashed, and now Ted is living at the Ronald Reagan Hospital for the Mentally Ill. Elaine Dickinson, of course, she's back, and of course, she's going to be a flight attendant on the space shuttle. But she's got a new man in her life, Simon Kurtz, played by Chad Everett. But try as Ted might, he escapes the mental hospital. He gets on the space shuttle. Try as he might to have them stop their wedding. They can't do it because, well, the invitations have already been sent out. That's too bad. Um, but of course, Ted knows something is going to go wrong with this flight. Well, of course he does. The computer Rock 4000 it loses it, and as I said earlier, it's going to the sun. He's shooting it directly to the sun. As you know, they're trying to go to the moon. No, they're going to the sun. Ted and Elaine, they work together, save the day, save the shuttle, and at the end of the film, they get married. So there you go. That was a very, tight take on the story, and the story really doesn't matter. But there you have it. Just like the original, the story didn't matter. It was the laughs that are important. And in the sequel, we have a great cast here. We have also along the way, we got Raymond Burr, Chuck Connors, Rip Torn, Sonny Bono, and William Shatner, whom I must say his role, um, I'm gonna say he does the best performance of this group of new characters. He's also got probably the most meat on the bone to his character in comparison to the others. And I think he does a good job making fun of Captain James T. Kirk along the way. Um, Now, this leads me to say about this film, or for you to ask the question, because I haven't really said yet. Did you enjoy the film? Yes, I did. I enjoy it. It's pretty good. It is good as the original, or is it as good as the original? Not really even close. But it's still pretty good. That to me just tells me like how high I thought the original was, or how excellent of a film it was. This one, it's a pretty good sequel to that film. But it's got its things that don't work really well with the film. Like, for example, as I said, Stack thought it was a retread of the first one, and I would say absolutely, this is a retread or a rehash of what happened in the first film. Now, instead of going to, I believe it was Chicago in the first one, they're now in space going to the moon, and it's kind of the same story. And this is only 2 years after the original. So, wow, that didn't take long for them to rehash this. And personally, for me, some of the best jokes in the film are really inspired by some of the excellent jokes from the first film. But yeah, they're still very funny. Um, but that's what I think. Yeah, like for example, the jokes I work in here. I gotta say, yikes to Iran Air. No, thank you. I don't want to go along with those. Um, the dude scalping tickets to the shuttle in the airport. I thought that was pretty funny, especially as a sports fan. Um, uh, the character, the doctor that John Vernon's playing, is he's in a court of law, and he's asked if he can give an impression of Ted. He says, "No, I don't do impressions. I'm a doctor." And as well, when you're introduced to William Shatner, it appears like he's on a screen, like he would be on Star Trek, but really he's just on the other side of the door of a window. I thought that was pretty funny as well. So yeah, there are some good laughs here, and you're usually not waiting for very long between laughs. It's the quick fire jokes that were in the original. You're getting the same here, but the jokes that you get, they're not as hearty or as memorable, perhaps in numbers, like you had in the original film. And that's too bad because it's still a pretty good film, I think, as well. Another one I wrote down as well, that I really like from the original film. There was the pilots. Well, you're introduced to the pilots here. You still have Over, but there's also Unger and Dunn, the other two pilots. They're all introducing and meeting each other, and it leads to quite a funny scene of dialogue involving their names. I thought it was pretty funny. But some of the jokes, though, too, this one in particular, I wrote it down because it's right at the end of the film or nearing the end of the film. Some of the jokes are kind of in a simpler vein, maybe. Um, the one in particular, and maybe some people find this hilarious and whatever. It wasn't a bad joke. It was just, okay, can we move on? The joke keeps going. The guy trying to shave as we're landing the shuttle and he cuts himself with the razor, and of course he just continues to shave. Um, I didn't find that really all that funny. And I think they could have come up with something much better as a joke or, yeah, a better joke to go along with that. Now, why I've included this in my list, as you know, I do generally like horror and science fiction, but I did Airplane, and now I'm doing Airplane too. Well, it's because there is a science fiction vein within this film. Certainly, you should find this in the comedy section. That's where this is going to be. But it makes fun of some science fiction films and some of the best. Um, Definitely, it makes fun of Star Trek, as I said, but Star Wars, E.T., 2001: A Space Odyssey, and even Mission Impossible that Peter Graves was in as well. I know that's more of like an action, the show, not the one with Tom Cruise. That comes years later, but the show that had Peter Graves, that particular show. So it makes fun of these science fiction films, and that's why I've included in here. And it does a good job making a parody of those films. Um, yeah, it does a good job with that. Now, this time for the music, it's done by Richard Hazard. It's certainly based on the Elmer Bernstein score of the original film. Um, Now, Hazard, just to let you know, other films he did, he was an orchestrator on films like the Amityville Horror, Looker, which I thought was pretty good, very underrated, and The Right Stuff. Just to give you films around the time this was done. So there you go. It is certainly good. Um, and it certainly sets the mood for the film and is absolutely a plus for it and does its job very well, setting the music for the film. Now, I asked it in the first film, and I'll have to ask it for this one because the character played by Al White, he was in the original film. He returns for the sequel, just him. He's in a courtroom and he's come to ask by a lawyer um, to give his account on what happened. The thing is, he speaks jive. So the question I would ask is not this film in its entirety, but is this scene racist? Now, in with the original film, I felt now I'm not a black man, so I'm a white man, but I felt it wasn't racist due to including Barbara Billingsley into the scene, who was the mother on Leave It to Beaver, who I would say you can't get any whiter than that, really, in interacting with these two men and it becoming quite a funny scene um, in which they all speak jive to each other. In this one, Al White is the only one that speaks jive. And he tells the courtroom what happened. And I'm pretty sure none of them know what he's saying. So in the end, it seems like they're making fun of how he's speaking. They're making fun of the fact that he speaks jive. So I would say, yeah, this scene is racist. But I certainly do hope that you don't become horribly offended by this scene and you're able to move past it or just take it for what it is and hopefully move on and get to some funny stuff in this film. Now, as well, this film was rated PG when it came out. Now, at that time, this was released. Sorry, you had G, PG, and R. There was no PG-13. That would come a couple of years later. Thank you, Steven Spielberg. But this film would never be rated PG today. It would be PG-13 due to, well, there's nudity and there's some of the jokes deal with the sexual content of the jokes. So it would be a little too hard edged to be released PG. There's absolutely no way they would do that today. But that was 1982. It was PG or R, and they were able to sell this as a PG film. You know, even at the end of the film, they say that they're going to be coming out with Airplane 3. Still waiting. Never happened. Um, it would be because this film didn't perform as well as they were hoping for at the box office, so Airplane 3 never happened. Now, I gotta say, sure, I like both of the Airplane films. I love the original one. So maybe Airplane 3 would have been okay if they made it. But seeming that Airplane 2, to me, while once again, I still thought it was pretty good, was really a rehash of the original. I could tell, or I'm assuming, they're going to go down that path again. And I don't know where you go. You've already been in space, but I don't know. They would do something, maybe adding a ship and like a cruise liner and a plane together in the future. I don't know. But and then Ted Striker comes back to save the day. But there you have it. Never was an Airplane 3. Now, filming began for this film on June the 2nd, 1982, and lasted 8 weeks. So there you have it. That's Airplane 2, the sequel. I thought it was pretty good. If you've never seen it, absolutely start at the original Airplane, work your way on to the second one, and hopefully it's good enough for you. Once again, it runs under an hour and a half, so it's not a very long film. But there you have it, Airplane 2, the sequel. So yes, can't wait. At some point here. I'm hoping to watch it with my wife. We saw it at the theater. It's been a while. I'm ready to see it again. I am thinking I'm going to do a review for Furiosa, uh, the latest Mad Max movie or film. Um, so yeah, can't wait. I'm going to see that one. I'm going to give a review for that. But until next time, enjoy your film watching.